We've just finished stitching the handles on, and now we are going to bind and finish the quilt. We are so close to the end, and I know this has been a really long project, especially for those of you who haven't quilted before. If this is your first foray into quilting, then it has been a long one, probably. But good job for sticking with it. So to bind the edges, what we're going to do is lay the car mat flat as you can go here. And if you've done the handle and straps, you want to just make sure they're, folded in towards the mat. And on the long side, we're going to start with the one that's farthest away from the car park. So the car park is over here. We're doing the side that's opposite of that. And what we're going to do is fold the backing, so that's this fun fabric I have, over onto the batting, okay, on the long side that is furthest away from the car park. And if you still have safety pins in your corners, you need to take them out right now. So we're gonna fold this over the batting, and then after we have folded that over, we're gonna fold the batting over onto the car park road. So that's approximately a 1/2 inch of width of the straight parts of the edging, so that the backing and the edging are approximately equal lengths. And then you can pin or clip this whole thing in place. I'm gonna try to use clips. I think it's gonna hold okay. The reason I'm doing clips is because if you watched the handle assembly, I just stabbed myself a bunch with pins, and I just don't feel like continuing with that trend. So, yeah, like to prevent stabbings. Don't we all want to do that? So the clips seem to be holding everything down and nice and in place. So you're tucking all of your raw edges and stuff into the binding here. If you are an experienced quilter, you can bind the edges in a way that you prefer or that makes the most sense to you. You do not have to follow this method that we're doing. This is a pretty straightforward binding method, so feel free to separate from the sew along or from pattern itself at this point, okay? We're just gonna keep doing this all the way down the long edge. All right, so we need to repeat this for the other parallel long edge. So that is going to be the edge with the car park. Well, it's going to be the long edge, at least where the car park kind of touches things. Okay, don't forget to take safety pins out. Okay, so starting with the car park edge here, well, the long edge on the car park side, I should say. And you can stick more clips in it or pins or whatever as you need to, as needed, just You don't have to go sparingly. You could also safety pin. It'll be harder to take out when you're sewing, but if you don't want to get stabbed by pins like I was getting stabbed, that's also an option. Okay, so we finished the long end. Now we need to do the short end. Okay, so let's go to the short edge where the car park is. So that's over here. And when we get to the corners, we're gonna either fold the backing under diagonally so the corners look mitered, or we can keep it straight and just make sure any raw edges are tucked inside. So you would fold that over. If you're gonna just do the straight, you're gonna fold it over and fold it over. Just tuck everything in like that. And I can zoom in just a hair too. So you see everything's folded, and then, you know, you can do it like that. If you were gonna do it mitered, with a mitered look, you'd want to like kind of fold that in diagonally first. So like when you're tucking it in, you're just kind of like pulling the little corner in, if that makes sense. It's gonna be really bulky because there's batting and stuff involved here, but like I said, it's much easier to just fold it over and make sure all the raw edges are tucked in. I think that's what I'm gonna do. Because it looks fine if you've got your raw edges tucked in. Don't even have to worry about it. But if you want to do mitered corners, you go for it. You do that. And then just continue onward, folding everything over the car park and pinning or clipping it into place. My little house on the edge here is gonna get tucked in a little bit, the grass. Because if you remember, I did this backwards. I did my edge backwards. The grass should really be over here, but I screwed it up. So just go with it. You know, when we hand make things, they're never perfect. They're never exactly, you know, the way that the pattern tells it to be or expects it to be. And that's okay. It's handmade. So if it has mistakes, you know what? It gives it character. And you have to let go of perfectionism, and you have to let go of some of that desire for things to be perfect when you really are into sewing, because, you know, it's going to be beautiful even if it isn't perfect. It's beautiful and imperfect, and we as people aren't perfect, so why should we be able to make things that are perfect? So, you know, just learn to love your imperfections and your flaws here. So let's just repeat that process for the final short edge with the straps and the handle. And really the only thing that's different is you just want to make sure the straps and handle and everything are not twisted when you do the tucking in. So you can go ahead and take care of that. Make sure all of your straps are, you know, pointing in towards the mat itself. And then after we've done that, we're gonna machine or hand stitch. You can hand stitch, but I'm going to machine stitch around all the sides to stitch it into place, and that will be it. So I'm gonna finish this edge and then we'll go to my machine. All right, we are going to be stitching with my machine all the way around the edges. So this is the final step. Okay, we've made it. Can you believe it? We've made it. What a project this has been. Hope you're loving it though. Okay, so I'm gonna stitch about 1/4 of an inch from the folded over edge. You could stitch closer if you want to. And I'm starting with my handled edge as well, if you're wondering, but it doesn't really matter which edge you start with. Just start with any old edge. You could also put a walking foot on your machine if your machine's having trouble going through all these layers. The walking foot would really help it. Always amazed when I put my walking foot on how it changes really difficult materials and things to sew into really easy things to sew. Okay, so we've done one edge, and I have done some back stitching just because I want to make sure all of those edges on the corner are encased, but you could stitch that however you want. And then from there, I'm going to go down the long edge here. Same thing, 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm going to back stitch on either side. All right, repeat this until you've finished the other 2 sides, and then your car mat is done.